Death is the unyielding truth that binds us all, an inevitable, profound, and deeply intimate encounter with the finite nature of life. It arrives without warning, shattering the world we thought we knew. In its wake, grief emerges, often dismissed as something to fix or get over. But what if grief, in its suffocating pain, is not a burden to carry or something from which we need to move on? What if grief is instead a sacred invitation, an opening to feel more deeply, to connect in unimaginable ways, and to transform all that we knew to be true? I'm Laura Walton, and I'm so grateful you're here. Together, let's step into the uncharted terrain of death and grief, not as something to fear or avoid, but as a force that shapes us, breaks us, and ultimately remakes us. Let's meet it not with resistance, but with curiosity and courage. And let's do this on purpose. Welcome back to Grief on Purpose, the podcast. We're here today with Kristy Lavinsky. Kristy, you live in Central Oregon, is that right?
Bend,
Oregon. Okay, I've been to Bend once. It was beautiful.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Many years ago. But thank you for being here today, Kristy.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. We don't know each other in real life. We did have a phone call, a month or two ago, just talking briefly about this project. But can you share just a bit how you found me, how we became connected, and how you became interested in this?
I found you on social media. I found you on Instagram.
Yep, good old Instagram.
Yeah, and it lit up the synapses in my brain fired when I saw it. And it was possibly some serendipity or just a great coincidence that I also had been exploring the topic of grief. A dear friend of mine who lost her husband in 9/11, and on many of our walks here in the gorgeous nature of Bend, she has shared here and there her grieving process specifically around him. And she brought to my attention the psychotherapist and author. His name is Francis Weller. And that's the first time I took a deep dive on my own on the topic of grief. So when I don't know if I was doom scrolling or what I was doing, just going through Instagram, and there's where I saw you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what about whatever it was I had posted was interesting to you, made you want to reach out and maybe participate?
You were similar to Weller. I felt like you were reframing the topic of grief. I feel like we have a very grief phobic culture. I mean, who the heck wants to talk about that? And it just, in your term with purpose, I just found it very inspirational. Who would ever think, right? But I found it that inspirational and compelling.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you did.
Yeah, me too.
Was the post you had seen something I posted about the grief and yoga?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So do you have
embodiment?
Yeah. So do you have a yoga background?
No, I don't. I do, and I have a very scattered practice. When I do go to yoga classes, and I feel like I have found something where I'm learning, and it's more from my 22-year-old daughter who was recently certified and is so passionate, and it's been such a immense, hopeful, joyful center almost of her life. And so it has drawn me to get into it more. And I found a studio here in my town that I really enjoy the community there. And when I do practice, it's usually more of a restorative practice. It's quite amazing. The breath work, the movement, the embodiment, just everything feels so regulated. And I feel like, speaking of grief, that's where I've been able to really tap in to understanding what I am physically holding in my body in terms of emotions.
Yeah, it's a really great tool for that. And I love a good restorative class.
Yeah.
I am waiting for somebody to open up a yoga studio that's only yin and restorative, and I will be the first person in line there.
Our
Um,
yeah, our country has really made it quite competitive and athletic, right?
yeah.
Power
Mhm.
yoga. And hey, no judgment. If it's getting somebody on their mat, beautiful.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that. But also, as I've gotten older,
Mhm.
my practice has evolved now to be much more gentle, but it's really difficult to find those classes in person.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it is.
um,
It is.
yeah.
And may I ask, are you an instructor as well?
I'm trained as a yoga instructor. I used to teach yoga full time when I lived in
That's
Portland,
mhm,
Oregon, actually, for a while. And that's
uh-huh.
primarily a little bit in Arizona, but primarily that's where I taught. I don't really teach anymore. And well, I don't teach in the sense you might think, like meaning I don't teach public yoga classes,
Mhm,
but I do work as a therapist and in this grief support work. And for me, my yoga practice, which is why I'm doing this whole project, but my yoga practice physically, but also the philosophical part of the yoga practice was the
mhm.
biggest anchor throughout my grief and the most transformative tool I found with my grief. And so I integrate the philosophy behind a yoga practice into the work that I do.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's your relationship with grief? What's your grief story?
It is something that has been, I think, ignited recently, meaning bringing it to the forefront of my thoughts, making the time, making the effort to actually confront losing my mom. And this is 26 years ago. I mean, it's been a long time. And what I realize is I had never dealt with it. I pushed it way down. This story is several months after my husband and I were married. My mom passed away, and she had been sick with congestive heart failure for several years, and it led to several other health complications. So you think there's this awareness that she's really not doing well. We talk about it openly. It was a very pressing, heavy thing having to deal with. And then the actual day that she passed away, I mean, nothing could have prepared me for that. And I remember specifically being in the ICU at her bedside, and her pancreas had ruptured and she was in a coma. And just in that very moment, I'm like, this is it. Like, this is her time. And just everything in my body and the tightness and the stress, the tension, the confusion, I immediately, I think within a few minutes, was my response was, I'm going to be fine. I have to hold it together. I'm going to be I'm going to be fine. Okay. I was very pragmatic. Okay. What's the next step? What's the next plan? And from that moment on, I swear that was my whole attitude. And this is what I really want to address with you, Laura, today is sort of it's such a taboo thing, grief. And for me personally, it was this fear of, if I let all these feelings come in and I let the sorrow really just be present with the sorrow and the sadness, I had this fear that I would slip into the never ending depression, or something really horrible would just and I would take myself down. I would not function. And so I just flipped it. And it's almost like I strategized to be as functioning and strong and tough. And then those following months, I remember having this attitude of, well, I'm just going to get in there and conquer this grief. And I have to get back to work and get back to life, and everything's going to be fine. It'll just take some time. But there was not one time. Suddenly it's a year later, it's 5 years later, it's 6, 10, 20, and not until this past year did I really learn the term embodiment. And yes, it came from starting some yoga. It also came from a fantastic therapist who I never knew anything about somatics, embodiment, all of these actual very physical and physiological elements that we store so much crap in our body. And through breath work, through just learning how to sort of do a body scan, elements of meditation, oh my goodness, all these things started to come up. And rather than feeling fear, right, of, oh gosh, I'm going to go off the deep end,
Mhm.
I started to sort of work through it, move it around. Grief is not meant to be held stagnant and steady inside. It's meant
Yeah.
to be moved around, right?
Yeah.
And, if what I was doing for all those years and holding it down, it just builds. And you literally, speaking of congestive heart failure, it congests it congested emotions. And I think that I was stuck in a very sort of an angry, but a very passive way, but a very angry. And I thought, oh, anger, this is how I'm grieving. But
Mhm.
no, it's not that simple. And
Mhm.
it was pretty heavy and difficult. But then finally understanding that you have to move grief around, whether that's in a group, which, yeah, it's not meant to go to a therapist one-on-one and, hey, we're going to do this one-on-one. I'm going to conquer this. I'll be done. No, it keeps coming back, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of this wave. It's like grief is feral, it's energy, it's wild. And this is a lot of the Francis Weller that I've read. These aren't my
Mhm.
own philosophies, but man, do I understand these philosophies? They really resonate with me. And what has happened is I have gone for this ride. Like I feel like, all right, I'm going to ride with this, see where it takes me, because grief takes its own territory and it just kind of locks in. And rather than the avoidance, I'm like, yeah, I'll get on that ship and I'll take this cruise for a while. Let's see. And what I found is it actually is not heavy and depressing. It's difficult, yes, the sorrow, but then it has made me a better human where I also feel my joy far more because I'm also feeling the sorrow. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Mhm. Yeah, when you know one, you can better know the other.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well said.
Yeah. So for a while, did you think you were being successful at conquering your grief?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got the messages from society and
Mhm.
friends, you're so strong.
Yep.
Wow, how do you do that? Blah, blah, blah. And no, I was so strategic.
You're good at
That is
that.
all
Yeah.
I was. I was strategic, and yet it was just unhealthy. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna, it's all I knew. It's all I
Yeah.
knew at the time, you know. And it's funny, another thing that really stands out to me right after my mom died. So she was an only child and her mother was still alive. So I'm sitting there with my grandmother. This is within the same month my mom passed away. And I just remember my grandmother telling me, I'm checking in with her. Hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And she specifically said, I save my tears for my pillow.
Mm.
Meaning when I am alone, when I go to bed at night, that's when she'll, it's a very private thing. Like I felt like my grandmother was, and again, this is all she knew, right? It's all
Right.
she knew. It's this idea of having very polite grief. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
Let's be very polite and keep your act together and keep it together, go, go, go. And then, yeah, there's no need to really discuss this. And
Yeah.
so as a 20 something year old, I'm hearing that thinking, oh, is that how we do it? Okay. I got it.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So you were 20 something when your mom died?
And had
28.
you, yeah,
Sorry,
okay. And so
20.
you were observing, sorry, you were observing your grandmother talk about this and how she was composing herself around this. And it sounds like that's where,
Yeah, just this attitude. Yeah.
yeah. And from that, you picked up, this is how we do it. This is how I'll do it. Did you have anything like in your earlier life that had taught you that grief was something to be conquered, or that's how you would need to approach it?
Great question. I just kind of dipped into my general toolbox, which was got to be mentally tough, mentally strong.
Okay.
I mean, losing my mom was my first and pretty much one of my only loved ones that I've lost. So I can't really recall anything else except for this sort of bigger general attitude of in order to be successful, you conquer, you stay tough and
Mhm.
grounded and just very matter of fact about everything because, you know, that's life. And who wants to walk around moping the whole time? Let's move forward.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, yeah, it just was, by the way, you're pushing everything down.
Yeah.
And over time, you can't deny it. And yet that's what
Mhm.
it was. It was me
Mhm.
just numbing and strategically, just, it wasn't, it was more, it was like oppression. And it's
Yeah.
funny. My fear was if I do that, if I let myself grieve, I'm looking at depression, but actually my action of just not dealing with it was very oppressive.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. How were you strategic in it? Like, what sorts of things would you do to conquer that grief or avoid?
Look at the calendar and decide what's the to-do list and what are my next projects at work
Mhm.
and what are my next vacation plans or whatever with my husband. Just a very sort of busy. The busier I was, stay busy, the better I'll be. Stay
Mhm.
busy, keep your mind off it,
Yeah.
be distracted.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Uh,
if only I knew.
well, yeah,
I know now.
but it's so easy to do that too. Like in the world we live in, it really supports that and
Mhm.
staying busy and applauding those who seem to be strong or seem to
Yeah,
be not affected by it.
right.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So for a long time for you, that was the strategy was conquering this grief. But that's
Conquer, like, let's get it done,
mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Check, one and done. Uh-uh,
Yeah.
no,
No, no, no.
no.
So at what point did you realize though that wasn't actually going to work, that strategy?
Just very recently. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know, maybe subconscious. I do think that I think about the 1 year mark after losing my mom. Also, it's kind of wild because so she passed away. It was 9 months after my husband and I, after our wedding. And around the same time that she died, we found out that I was pregnant with our first child. And that was pretty wild moving through this huge new phase in life, getting ready to have this new life that my husband and I are, oh my gosh, we're bringing a human into the world. And yet I
Mhm.
just lost my mom. It was such a conflict of, not a conflict, it was, I can't think of a term for it, but what a difficult time to have such joy and then such sorrow.
Right.
And what I didn't realize was I thought there's no room for sorrow. Just park that over there and let me focus on the joy. And truly, I mean, we were just so excited for this first baby. And what I wish I knew at the time, I wasn't making more room or however you want to say, keeping joy the center of my values. If you don't deal with the sorrow, there isn't room for nothing else. It kind of sits, you think it's on the back burner, but it's right there
Mhm.
brewing and just sitting stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it definitely about a year ago is when I first started working with a therapist that uses a lot of embodiment. And that was the first time. And some of her questions that she was asking me about losing my mom, and then having the ability to feel it within my body and understand. Yeah, this is very recent for me. But I'm at the same time, I'm very grateful to think about going forward in life even more without having really addressed losing my mom and having this grief so suppressed. I'm grateful at least dealing with it today.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm surprised that it's very recent for you just because the way you talk about it seems very aware and very insightful of the process. So I would, if I had to guess, I would have guessed you'd been working this through your own understanding for quite a while.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not really, not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Or maybe now that I have such a bigger sense of embodiment, maybe it just kind of poo-poos how I thought I was aware. The
Yeah.
thing is, yes, I was aware. At the time, I was aware, but there was no denying I was struggling with just feeling some sort of anger at the fact that she passed away at 57. She was so young, and there was anger towards feeling it was just not fair.
Yeah.
But it sat there forever. I didn't take that, and I didn't talk to anyone. I just didn't. I just went to work and moved
Mm.
forward and did life without ever addressing, well, hold on, your mom died,
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
really hard too, of course, with a baby. Oh my gosh, that brings up so many questions. Being a mom for the first time, but not having a mom. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was pretty bumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the anger and whatever other emotions might have been included in the grief experience they were there obviously the whole
Mhm.
time, and they were there for painting the picture or the lens through which you saw your whole life and your whole world. So they impacted
Well said.
they impacted everything. They impacted your pregnancy, or they impacted becoming a mom. They impacted all of this stuff,
Mhm.
which you can obviously speak to that now, but were you aware of that at the time? And that was something you were trying not to look at? Or is that a newer awareness?
I was aware at the time of the anger, but it's almost like I looked at it as, oh, this is just a part of grief. And
Mhm,
then I
mhm,
just would pump the brakes right there. Like, that's all. I
mhm.
didn't, it's almost like I detached from it. I just saw it as, okay. And then I don't know, over time, that's the other thing that we're told. It'll just take time and things will get better over time. But I truly just pushed it all down, like
Yeah,
way down. And yeah,
yeah.
it's all I knew at the time.
Mhm. So when your therapist first presented, however that happened, presented this idea of
Mhm.
embodiment and somatics to you, what was your initial reaction to that?
I had no idea what the term somatic meant. Embodiment is still something I'm just so curious about. But at the time, I thought it was a little out there. Like,
Mhm.
what do you mean breathe only through your nose? And what do you mean, where do I feel it in my body? And she would give me these tips on just literally different little, like tugging on your earlobe or the tapping. And at first I was just so like, this is woo woo. This is ridiculous. How is this going to help me? And then, but the one thing, I will do my homework. So I did my homework and I gave it a shot. And then that is where I had my little, or my big aha moment, where literally feeling my central nervous system just completely, I felt like everything regulated. And then that's when I could see the dysregulation of all those years of
Yeah.
pushing all the crap down.
Mhm.
There's no denying. And I always say to my kids, they're just so sick of it. Just breathe, just breathe. But literally, like stopping, taking the pause, and just when committing to that, you completely shift
Yeah.
your nervous system. And
Yeah,
it's
I
so
know.
simple.
It's so simple, but
Simple,
it's
darn
but
it.
yeah, but it's not easy. Again, it's not supported in general by our
Mhm.
world. We're not taught that unless
It's
you end
getting
up.
better now,
Well,
right?
it
I
is
mean,
getting better. It
yoga
is for sure getting
and
better. Yeah.
yeah.
But it's not a tool we've been very freely given unless we find a good therapist, unless we stumble on it through yoga or whatever it might be. Like some people never find that.
If my grandmother, I mean, that how
Yeah.
wild would that have been if she looked across the breakfast table and I said, "How are you doing? How's it going?" Oh my goodness. Had she looked at me and said, "Okay, I'm breathing. I'm upset, and yet your mom was so ill for so," had she just gone there and just taught, but nope, we're not talking about this. I say
Yeah.
that's for my pillow at nighttime. That's my own private, polite grief. I say
Yeah.
and again, it's all she knew.
Oh,
It's all she
yeah.
knew. But it's just like that was the messaging everywhere and anywhere. And
Yeah.
darn
Yeah.
it, it's so sad.
It is sad. And that is, yeah, your grandma certainly wasn't the only one. That
Mhm,
was that was what most people
mhm,
um, were doing, and really what a lot of people are still doing. But yeah, to
mhm,
consider how it would change just the greater, well, one, the individual experience,
mhm.
but then just the greater collective if we leaned more towards the side of taking a breath and talking about it instead of saving it for our pillow. It'd
Yeah,
be
I
very
mean,
different.
I feel like if I could describe the fear I had of grief all those years, it's that feeling right before if you're about to cry and you get verklempt, you get choked up, like you
Mhm.
literally feel it in your chest, or at least I do. And that term, fighting back tears, that was what I was walking around with because I thought, if I let this go and I actually cry, maybe I won't be able to stop crying. That
Yeah.
was the fear. Like this, and I stayed in that state of fighting the tear, like fighting, just fighting, which, wow,
Yeah.
I'm having my own little aha moment. The anger, you think of how those are so correlated.
Yeah,
So,
fighting. Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. And not to mention that's exhausting to be fighting something within yourself 24
So
hours a day.
exhausting.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like the cup is overflowing, it's brimming, and it's up to us. It was up to me. You got to empty it, right? And
Yeah.
then it's going to fill up again. But I didn't even try to tip it a little bit. I was like, nope, I'm fine. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even think I had saved tears for my pillow.
Hmm.
It's just, yeah, totally unprocessed, unacknowledged.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have now any kind of a regular embodiment or somatic practice that you've, big or small, that you've incorporated into your regular life?
As I mentioned before, my yoga practice can be a little bit fleeting,
Hmm.
but definitely such a game changer on days that I go. So that definitely is in my toolbox. I also, yeah, exercise, breath work. I feel like running is my form of meditation, or it's more like jogging or hobbling, not really running, but it is where I go inward and I'm so cognizant of my breathing for whatever, that
Yeah.
hour or so. And then and this is the other thing I've really learned a lot about this past year. You think about outlets of creativity. I guess we call it recreation, but it's recreate. It's doing whatever I can, whether it's through art or music, like playing the piano. Those are that is a very somatic experience for myself. And yes, also walking or hiking out in nature. But these are elements where I'm going inward and really, again, I'm just all about the breath. That
Hmm.
seems to really, really, I can just sense sort of a body scan and understand how I'm feeling and processing
Yeah.
information.
Yeah. It's great. So the breath is a big one for you.
Mhm.
Are there any of the little, you mentioned your therapist did like the little tapping things or ear tug or whatever. Are there any one of those that has become a favorite that you use from time to time?
Yeah, the tapping, yeah, that
Mhm.
is that. And then also she has this whole, my husband and I will sort of joke about it in an inside joke way. And yet I am quite seriously committed. She'll do this, just this sigh. And that is, yeah, it's like a soothing
Mhm.
technique. Mhm.
Yeah.
The one thing that I did want to bring up, and I called my son earlier today and I said, doing this podcast interview, are you okay if I share about your experience with your friend committing suicide? And he said, yeah,
Mhm.
just no names. So,
Okay. So let's talk about that then.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. My question or my curiosity is on the topic of grief. One of my other curiosities is not just our own individual grief, but what if you have someone in your life who, somebody that loses someone, but you're watching them go through this horrible, horrible loss
Mhm.
and basically a trauma. And do I ask them about it? Do I give them their own time? Is this, like I'm as a mother to have my son go through such a horrific experience. It was 3 days before his college graduation.
Mhm.
And one of the students in the friend circle took his life. And my husband and I, we just arrived at the airport. We're there in town, ready for graduation. We're giddy, happy, so excited. And we call our son to let him know we're on our way to the hotel. And does he have his cap and gown? And and he is horribly upset. And he shares with us that he just found out, one of the friends in his group of friends, he found out that he took his life just a few hours earlier.
Mhm.
And it was just so horrible. It's this weekend of joy and celebration with this horrible tragedy. And from that moment on, like my son is not going to be the same. His whole lens on life is shifted, right? What do I do, or what can I do, or can I do anything? What do we do? What are we going to do? Like that whole shock in the moment. It's the same exact, it was like a replay of being at my mom's bedside in the hospital, right as she was that
Mhm.
the day is here. What do we do now? It's such a horrible, terrifying, confusing feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Within the first few hours of learning the devastating news, my son's friend had just taken his life the night before, and we are 3 days before college graduation, festivities, everything's exciting, joyful. We're taking this horrible, tragic news. I call my dad right away to tell him, because my dad has volunteered in suicide prevention. And he also is a big volunteer running recovery groups for AA and Al Anon. And my dad is amazing. So his immediate response was, you have to make sure the friend group, no one is alone. They need to all be accounted for, meaning having that group dynamic and making sure they're together. And he said, encourage them to talk about it, and not, that's the best thing right away. Can they just talk through it?
Mhm.
And yeah, because at that moment with that tragedy and just terror, being alone, the isolation, you really need the human connection. As said, my dad was saying, in order to help process through the news, through the shock, through the confusion.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what you did.
I shared that, and it's probably that other mom thing, right? Like, oh God, okay, what do we do? How can I fix this? But it wasn't a fixed thing. It was simply getting some great advice from someone, my dad, who understands this scenario. And if there is a better way to help move through these next few, it was just an hour by hour thing, right? Like
Yeah.
you're in such shock. So I shared that with my son, and indeed, they all got together right away over at their house and just trying to move through this and talk about it and still show up to college graduation within the next day or two. It was, yeah, it was pretty raw and horrific.
Yeah. I'm sure it
Difficult.
was. Yeah.
They did it. They all showed up for one another. And to this day, speaking of grief and trying to understand and support my son in his 20s going through this. So this is 2 years ago when it occurred. And to this day, his form, I think, of grieving, and we were talking earlier about creativity, his songwriting, he's a musician. And so the songwriting and the singing, he's a singer, talk about somatics, talk about breath work in the body. But it's pretty amazing. That's how I believe. I know we still haven't talked too much about this whole horrible, but he's moving it through his body quite literally, and just writing and singing. And I think they've had a couple songs about this, this old friend.
Yeah. Yeah. So this happened 2 years ago, you said. So was this before you really discovered the practice of embodiment?
Yeah.
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 I know.
Okay.
Once again, it was just right there, and all these things building up and life experience and things just happening that
Yeah.
I thought I had the coping skills, but I, kind of sort of did, but it's wonderful to have a little bit more knowledge now. So
Yeah. So yeah, that makes me curious though, now that you have this embodiment as an awareness and as a practice for yourself and for your own grief, if this situation with your son happened now, would you do anything differently?
different. Ooh, good
Yeah.
question. Yeah, I think that when you have young adult kids, we have to learn that you really want to honor their decisions are their own. And yet it's still such a young, raw age that they're still learning so much about adulting that, yeah, I definitely would bust open a new toolbox of, like the breath work and meditation, and just probably probing the questions that help him connect more so what these hard or difficult experiences, these stresses, how or where, I guess that's
Yeah.
where in your body do you feel it?
Yeah.
Now, the other question though is, who knows how another person, would he be responsive to that? Would he even, because I was not responsive for such a long time, this idea of, okay, take a deep breath. Where do you put your feet on the ground? At first I wasn't, I just pushed it away and thought, that's a little woo-woo, that's a little strange. But that's the other half of it. You can only do your best and share what you think or what you've learned, but it's up to the other person whether or not they actually are going to really hear you, and even if it even speaks or resonates with them.
Yeah, of course. And it may not, and that's
It may
okay.
not,
And that
and that
doesn't
is
mean
out of our
anything.
control,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but yes, absolutely. But it also, you even kind of indirectly pointed to this earlier in talking about your grandmother and how you saw her show up. That's a very different way than how if there might have been somebody there when your mom died who reminded you to breathe or who asked you to bring some awareness to your body, right? Like it would just, not even to say one is good or bad or one is right or wrong, but they would be different experiences. And you, in your young experience, your new grief experience, you would gravitate more towards one than the other.
Mhm.
Again, not right or wrong, but you would have, there would be different, there'd be
Right.
options there.
Right. But yeah, no, it was like, okay, got to clean the house, get everything organized, need to talk money, finances, blah, blah, blah. It just,
Mm-hmm. And that's how we pass that down. Like people, children observe that in us, and that's how we learn how to do it. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But also you can only, not just you, we as people can only go, we can only support somebody else the depth of which we've gone ourselves. So when 2 years ago, when your son's friend died, you couldn't go maybe as far with him as you could now because you couldn't go there in yourself. Like you couldn't do that. You couldn't look at that in yourself. That's in my opinion, that's another benefit of being able to learn how to hold this stuff within ourselves, because then we're more accessible to other people in that.
I do have to say, and I'm so grateful for this, I've got my family, my nuclear unit, my husband, daughter, son, and I, the four of us are really, really tight, very, very close. And I'm saying this because I did have a very strong connection and openness when his friend took his life. Within those 2 weeks after graduating, and they're packing up and their rent is up, they're ready to move on. Some were staying there in the college town, others, like my son, he was going straight to New York. And he said to me, in terms of this tragedy and how he's going to deal with this, he's just so devastated. He himself knew that he wanted to talk more than just the group of friends about him. He needed to talk to a therapist. So I immediately started researching a therapist in New York that specialized in grief. And indeed, we found one. And my son asked me to help him on that and do the research. Anyway, he went, I think he was seeing her weekly for several months. And again, though, do you see it was repeating this pattern of got to get in there, conquer it, got to go talk to the grief therapist, let's work through this, get this done, come on. It was it's almost destructive, like this messaging of, all right, you're like, in order to be successful, I have to conquer this and go do the work, and then everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
It's better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, here we are. It's been 2 years since his friend took his life, and it's still there. And I'm grateful that he sees today still. This isn't a one and done thing. It comes in waves. And for example, I was sharing that he is a musician. He definitely has written some songs where I will hear nuances because I know the story and I'm like, oh, that's about, okay. And and through working through that, like he's massaging the sorrow through writing music, through lyrics. It's pretty amazing. And I'm so proud of him for not sweeping it under the rug or pushing it down. I'm so proud of him for putting it out there and not only like investing so much energy and heart and creation and passion, but he's also getting up on a stage and sharing the story with an audience. And some of the other members in his band were also in the friend circle back in college. So they're able to grieve together in that sense through, and yes, it's very somatic, right? Singing. Holy smokes. Like so this is where grief actually, that I talked about, it's just wild and feral. It has this energy that it takes on all on its own, right? And to watch him go in, and he's so present, and it's where grief actually, it can capture joy.
Yeah.
It really can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he empties that cup and his whole vibe is it's just beautiful. It's sad. It's really sorrowful. And yet it's so uplifting at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
It's
I love that. It's sad and
beautiful.
it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yes, beautiful
Mm.
balance.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Me too.
Yeah. What else about grief do you want to share?
I'm so glad that you're talking about it. And I understand you're writing a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you for doing this. And I don't even know you, Laura. But and it's so catchy. It truly is grief on purpose.
Mhm.
But it is so vital and so important to at least shift the old messaging of
Yeah.
let's be very polite when we grieve, or let's save our tears for our pillow. And it's a very private, personal, and yes, it is personal, but we're all going to face this several times.
Yeah.
And it's not only about loss of life, it's holy smokes, it's moving.
Mm-hmm.
It's going through milestones. Very exciting things can also have such a sense of such massive change that, yeah, you feel an essence of grief
Yeah.
because you are losing something.
Absolutely. Grief shows up in other places other than just death, and it can be magnified in those
Mhm.
other places if we've never had to touch it before, or if we don't know how to.
Right.
Yeah. And thank you. Thank you for the kind words about what I'm up to over here. I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's woohoo.
Yay, grief. Yay, grief.
Yay, grief. Who would have ever thought, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was with friends last night. It was one of our friends was celebrating his 60th birthday. And so there we are, just at such a joyful occasion and talking about what we're doing today. And I thought, oh, tomorrow I am actually going to be speaking with this brilliant gal that's creating a podcast. She's also writing a book. And oh, what's it on? What's it on? Grief. And I saw some of my friends' faces kind of go, huh? Okay, let's change the subject. But then I would say actually the majority of my gals, the last time I was talking about, their eyes kind of lit up and they were interested. Where are you going with this? And what is the premise of the whole thing? And um, just this idea, right, of talking about moving, not pushing it down, but moving through these really difficult
Mhm.
experiences. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about it, learning how to be with it. Because, yeah,
Right.
as you said, as we've said, like, you're not going to conquer it. So, how do we learn how to be with it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One other thing I was just thinking of, yeah, it was that coming for the first time, learning about just listening and hearing and feeling, like through breath work or yoga or playing the piano or whatever it is, just learning how to embody and breathe. And I just remember that first moment of, oh, this is what I was looking for. Oh, here
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah. You didn't even know you were looking for it. It sounds like until you found it. Yeah. I
And
like
then you're
that.
just, oh, wow, okay.
Oh, this changes everything. This
Yeah.
changes the game. Mhm. Well, thank you so much for being willing, for sharing a little bit about yourself, for sharing your mom, for sharing your sons and his friend with us. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And I
Mm.
appreciate you as well. Very
Thank you.
excited for your projects.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with me, Laura Walton, and my incredible guest on Grief on Purpose. Your presence is a gift, and I'm so grateful you're walking this path with us. For more connection and resources, you'll find everything you need in the show description. To my guests, thank you for sharing your person with us today. It is truly an honor to know your story. I'm your host, Laura Walton. Until next time, be kind to yourself and remember you're not alone in your grief. We are here on purpose.